All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Chasing Financial Freedom. Today, it's a very interesting day to say the least. We have talked yesterday about the ascending triangle that has been forming here in the S&P, in the SPY. You can see it here forming. And here you can see that in the beginning of the day, we have seen a drop. And here you can actually see how it happened. So we touched this line, this resistance line, which was put at almost 417. Here was the place that I actually shorted the SPY, and here you can see that it has been a good small trade. And here you can see it was the support trending line, which we have of course bought, and here we are right now. What will happen, it's interesting to see. You can see here where we have put this ascending triangle and the resistance line. Here you can see two scenarios unfold. If we fall back down to here, we will have a 200 point, almost 100 points drop, which would be bad, but not as unthinkable as some people would think. Okay, so here you can see that the MCD is a little bit high and that we are slowly falling, so it would be safer to assume that we will probably fall a little bit down than up. And you can actually see this in all the stocks that are doing their job these days. So you can see here all the good stocks are down, some more than others, like TLRY. Bad situation. So let's look at the tick in the 5 minutes. Nothing too much. Here you had this great opportunity. When we touch this point, we could usually begin to see a fast reply and moving up. The interesting thing is that the wicks is actually not, it has not moved much as we have seen in September when the market was falling. The US dollar index, we are still falling, which is interesting because we have been going up for quite some time. And here you can see that the dollar was the strongest on March last year, and we are slowly climbing up. We have here the Nasdaq still in a good place. Here you can see here was the up, here was the up, and you can clearly see that we are moving right now a little bit further down. Here you can see that the Nasdaq actually, it's very hard to go below this line, so there is probably support line somewhere like here. So it would be safe to assume that here, even though we have support, if we continue down this trend, we could actually see a drop to this line. So there is an 8 point to be made if you feel secure to short the market. Here we have the Russell, which is falling so much, even though the Russell has done a lot since the fall of Corona crisis here from the beginning, and we have actually moved much up. So it would be safe to assume that here is the support line. Here you can see the lower support line, so here would be a good place, the lowest place to fall to. Here we have a great support line, and if the market is not going to crash, then we can expect to move back up. Bitcoin has seen a drop a relatively big drop, so this is what we've been expecting to see, a little bit of a drop, and we will see whether we move down to this area right here or whether we're going in a bit lower. It all depends usually on the biggest and the biggest players. And here we can look, Nvidia has had some great news actually. Here was actually a good place to short this stock, even though if you look at Nvidia stock, even though it has had some great results, it is a little bit too steep. It's similar to what Tesla has done. So even though it has had some great news, it would be safe to assume that probably we should be coming down here to the 250 line, even though it is a big drop. So Unity software today is holding pretty strong, so it's interesting to see that, even though we are moving on the overbought territory. Moderna has actually quite done well today. So here you can see here we have a gap to be filled, and this gap to be filled. So if this is an inflection point and if the buying pressure will continue, we could actually see Moderna rise some more. Interesting to see Amazon rising, and we're approaching the resistance line and the almost all-time high for Amazon. Even though we had some bad news, some a little bit lower revenue than expected, but Amazon has always been a very expensive stock. Here you see we were at the 1,300, so it was still very cheap to buy. Here we have Foot Locker. Interesting to see that the stock is actually doing pretty well for today, even though we are approaching a little bit of the overbought territory. And here you can see that whenever we come to the overbought territory, we usually fall down. Apple almost at the all-time high. If you can see, actually we have achieved the all-time high and we have moved past that. Here you see was a great support line to be bought. So interesting to see that such a strong move from Apple, but you can actually tell that this is the case. Also Google has reached an all-time high. So there, remember, there will come a time when the market will change and the stock is actually they're going to sell out a little bit. Here you could have bought Google the same for $1,000, and now in 1 year you would have tripled your money. So interesting to say the least. Also Boeing doing great, even though here you can see that we are moving a little bit in a channel. Here I've had the buy order to buy if we came down to this range. Here you see, even though we have actually broken the downtrend and we are moving a little bit up, and we do expect to see the stock actually move to this line, so the 241 line. We have WA, which is a classic boring stock. Here you see, here came the buying pressure at this line, and you can actually expect the stock to move inside this channel. Energy Transfer falling quite a bit. even though the lowest was in last year October, and you could have bought the same. So Tesla, one interesting stock. It has been falling for a time now, and here, as we have seen, it was at the high. IBM falling. You can see here that it's actually, there is not much interest for this stock at this moment. Here we have, actually interesting to see that we have come down to this line. We still believe that this gap here has to be closed. We were lower, of course, March last year, and here actually interesting to see that we have moved so low. Here you can see, here we were at the lowest point for this stock this time of the year when we had bad results, and we actually moved from up here to down here, so it was a $40 drop. You can see that right here. So if the same could be applied to here, we might have some more room to fall, even though this fall right here, it cannot go on forever. So probably the lowest it will go in a normal market is around $112. Boring stock, but you can still make some money in the next few months. BioNTech, so Wayfair falling down, Netflix also falling. Of course, we were at the all-time high. Skills falling, even though it has recouped a little bit, but we are still up, even though we have actually made in this stock made profit. So in the future we do see great upside for this stock. Roku, interesting to see, also we were falling, and this is probably the point when we're going to reverse. Expel, good stock, we are expecting on the 23rd of November, so until then it is probably going to move inside this range here. Palantir, up, it's falling a lot more than expected, even though we had great news. So we still have some more room to fall, probably maybe to the 16-17 range, and we will see what will happen with this interesting stock. Zillow also falling, even though it has had some bad report. Here you can see we are almost at the inflection point when something is going to happen, and of course the same can be said about this gap here, that sooner or later it should be closed, even though this looks like a big head and shoulders. We will see. Aqua Bounty also falling, so we're seeing a sell-off in the small cap stocks. NEO, of course, delivered great numbers, but still we broke the trend line. So here is the line, here is the gap that it will have to be closed. Penn National Gaming, we are coming almost to the inflection point, even though you can see that it's not. Here you have to see that it was actually $3 last year, so in 1 year it has grown a lot, to say the least. Fubo also dropping a lot. And you can see here it has dropped underneath all the metrics, you can see that it is actually growing its revenue, which is great. Where today they had a great news, and we have seen that the stock did not hold this line, so it moved up, but it moved down actually, but we will see. Of course, hood falling very much, all-time low. Lemonade, even though they have great numbers, and it's interesting to see that such a big drop. DPV also falling a lot. Why? Hard to say, but here we have an inflection point which will need to be, sooner or later we will have a big spike, so we could expect that. Evolution also falling. I mean, almost all the small cap are falling. TRY also big drop in the stock price, so we will see. So until next time, hope you have a great trading session, and next time we'll continue with our